Hello, welcome to this video, Lily de Silva, lesson 17, it should be 17.2. This is the Pali to English translation exercise. Kasako kettam kasitva nahaitum udakam utari. Call up my iPad. So, Utari, he went down, literally crossed down, same as the word avatar, Sanskrit avatarati, Pali uttarati, and it's used not only crossing from a heavenly realm down to a human realm, for example, or one realm to another, but also for the simple act of going into the water. The imagery is used of crossing from the air down into the water. And it takes the direct object, the accusative. So, udakam uttari, he entered the water, descended into the water. So, kasako udakam uttari, the farmer descended into the water. So, kettam kasitva, having ploughed the field, or after ploughing the field, the farmer went into the water to bathe. So, kasako, the farmer, kettam kasitva, having ploughed the field, udakam uttari, went into the water, nahayatum, that's the infinitive of purpose, went into the water, entered the water to bathe. Number 2. Ugganhantanam darakanam datum acharya kusumani aharingsu. So, bring aharati, they bring aharanti, they brought is aharingsu. Whenever you see a verb form ending in either insu, like this, or at the end of a verb, you can be virtually certain, I can't think offhand of any occasions when it's not so, that this is the third plural aorist, they did so and so. So aharimsu, the imsu gives it away. It's an aorist third person plural, so they brought. So the acharya kusumani aharimsu. Kusuma is a flower. Actually, the general word for a flower is pupa. The kusuma, neuter kusumang, plural kusumani, is more specifically a blossom. Yeah, a flower generally, but more specifically blossom. So, acharya kusumani aharingsu, the teachers brought flowers. So, datum, to give, to whom? Uggahantanam darakanam. So the genitive / dative plural, give flowers to the darakanam, the children who are learning, ugganhantanam. So we'd say to give flowers to the children who are studying, the children who are learning. The Pali would say to the learning children. So ugganhantanam darakanam datum acharya kusumani aharingsu. The teachers brought kusumani flowers, datum, to give to the uggahantanam darakanam, the children who were learning. Number 3. Upasaka asanehi uttahitva dhammang desetum upasankamantam samanam vandimsu. So, vandati is to praise, worship, show respect to, not necessarily worship. Sorry. Vandingsu, they praised, showed respect to. Who? Samanam vandimsu, they showed respect to or worshipped the monk. The upasankamantam samanam, they worshipped the approaching monk, or worshipped the monk who was approaching, or who was just coming. Coming to do what? Desetum, infinitive of purpose again. Dhammam desetum, to preach the Dhamma. So Dhammam desetum upasankamanto samano, the monk who was approaching, who was coming to preach the Dhamma. Now in the accusative, Vandingsu, they praised the Dhammam desetum upasankamantam samanan, the monk who was coming to preach the Dhamma. Having done what did they do that? So uttahitva, having risen, got up from asanehi, the asanam, the seat, asanehi, ablative plural, so asanehi uttahitva, having got up from their seats. And the subject of the sentence is the upasaka, the lay devotees, or in English we even say upasakas now. So the upasakas, having risen from their seats, or rising from their seats, asanehu uttahitva, vandimsu, they praised the samanam, the monk, upasankamantam, who was coming, dhammam desetum, to preach the Dhamma. This some uttahitva is from the root sta, to stand, with the prefix udu ut, meaning up or out. So it means to stand up, to get up from where you're sitting, to stand up. In Sanskrit, where you have what would be, and I'm going to put an asterisk, I'm writing a form that doesn't exist, where you have an S between two stop consonants, as da, ka, pa, and so on, it drops out. That's why Sanskrit has utta, which is a regular form. So, and in Sanskrit, it's a tishtati in Sanskrit, so he gets up. Uttish, it's a reduplicating verb. Uttishtati. And that's in Sanskrit, then in Pali. Having got up is uttahitva. So upasaka asanehi uttahitva, having got up from the seats, dhammam desetum upasankamantam samanam vandimsu. A praise showed respect to the monk who was coming to preach the Dhamma. Number 4. Nagaresu kammani katva vetane labhitum akankamana nara gamehi nikkamingsu. So nikkamati, in Sanskrit nishkramati, kramati to step, nishkramati to step out of, or just to leave a place. Nikkamingsu, they left, and it takes the ablative because the imagery is stepping out from, so it takes the ablative. So gamehi nikkamingsu, they left the villages, or went out from villages. So the nara gamehi nikkamingsu, the men left the villages. What men? The vetane akankamana, vetane labhitum akankamana. Vetane, wages, labhitum, to obtain, akankamana, akankati, to wish for, desire, akankamana is the one form of the present participle, so desiring with the intention of earning wages. Now, nagaresu kamani katva, nagaresu, in towns, kamani katva, having done jobs or just working. So nagaresu kamani katva, it looks like having worked in towns, the men then left the villages to earn wages. But no, the idea is the men left the villages, naragamehi nikamimsu, to do what? To work in the cities, to earn wages, to earn money, okay? So, this katva here, having done work, kamani katva, is closely linked with the next verb, labhitum. In other words, to having worked, earn. In other words, to work and earn. It's not that they first did their work, then went to the cities to earn. So bear in mind here that you've got to see within a sentence, if you have this absolutive form, katva here, which verb it comes before. And here, normally it is to be linked with the nearest verb to it, which is what happens here. Katva, kamani katva, vetane labhitum, which in English we translate as to do work and earn. So that note then that the katva is not linked to the nikamimsu, but to the labhitum, which is logical as well. So I'll read it again. Nagaresu kamani katva vetane labhitum akankamana nara gamehi nikamimsu. Nara gamehi nikamimsu, the men left the towns in order to kamani katva vetane labhitum, to do work and earn wages. Number 5. Acharyo asanam dussena chadetva samanam nisiditum nimantesi. Nimanteti is to invite, and you can call in. Nimanteti, call towards you. Aorist, nimantesi. If you look at towards the bottom of page 66, you see on the base chore, to steal, choresi or chorayi, both are equally correct. He stole. So acharyo, the teacher, nimantesi, invited, samanam nisiditum, he invited the monk to sit, samanam nisiditum, that's the infinitive, to sit down, nimantesi, he invited the monk to sit down, asanam dussena chadetva, chadeti, covers, chadetva, having covered, dussa, cloth, asanam dussena chadetva, having covered the seat with a cloth, acharyo samanam nisiditum nimantesi, the teacher invited the monk to sit down. Number 6. Kumaro dwaram vivaritva rukkamha uruhante vanare passamano attasi. Kumaro, very often you can get the subject and the main verb by looking at the first, not always, very often, subject and main verb by looking at the first and last words of the sentence, as you can here. Kumaro attasi, the boy stood. Dwaram vivaritva, literally having opened the door. Attasi stood. Passamano, seeing or looking at. So passati, sees. Passamano, looking at, seeing. Vanare, the monkeys. Rukkamha uruhante. Rukkamha, from the tree. Uruhante, remember, aruhati, to climb. Uruhate, to descend or get down from. And that one takes the ablative, from the tree. Rukkamha uruhante vanare passamano, looking at the vanare uruhante, present participle, accusative, masculine plural, descending rukkamha, from the tree. Number 7. Pandito gune churitva akusalam karonte nare pakkusitva uvadi. So the Pandita, the wise man, uvadi, admonished. Now, at first sight, this sentence could seem to be saying that the wise man stole some cattle and then summoned the nare, the men, akusalam karonte, who were doing an unskillful or even a wicked act. But no, the choritva here is not linked to uvadi, so it's not what the Pandit did. It's what the wicked men did. So the Pandito uvadi, Pandito pakkusitva uvadi, the Pandit, the wise man, having summoned, having called, admonished. Nare pakkusitva uvadi, having called the men, admonished them. So it's the men, akusalam karonte, and here the choritva can be not just having done it, but a means of doing it. Why you're saying something. So the akusalam karontanara, people who do evil. Gune choritva, akusalam karonte, they can do people who do evil in the form of stealing cattle. The Pandito, the wise man, pakkusitva uvadi, having summoned, admonished, having summoned whom? The akusalam karonte nare, the men who commit wicked acts. And in what form do they commit these wicked acts? Gone choretva, by stealing cattle. Number 8. Yachakasa putta rukhehi patantani phalani sanharitva apanasmim vikinimsu. So Yachakasa putta, the sons of the beggar, vikinimsu, sold having gathered the fruits, patantani palani sanharitva, having gathered up the falling fruit, from where? Rukehi patantani palani, from the trees falling fruit, sanharitva, so having gathered up the fruit falling from the trees, apanasmim vikinimsu, sold it in the market. The apana, the market. I'll read again. Yachakasa putta rukehi patantani phalani sanharitva apanasmim vikinimsu. Number 9. Kasako danyam minitva vanijassa vikintum pahini. So Kasako, the farmer, danyam minitva, having measured the danyam, having measured the corn, pahini, sent it, vanijassa vikinitum, so vikinitum, the infinitive, to sell, so sent it off to sell it to the merchant. So vanijassa vikinitum, to sell to the merchant, he sent. Kasako danyaminitva vanijassa vikinitum pahini. Number 10. Dhammam ugganhitva samano bhavitum akankamano amacho acharyam paryesamano buddham upasankami. Upasankami. You'll very frequently see that verb in the suttas, went up to or approached. So buddham upasankami, he approached the Buddha. So who approached the Buddha? The amacho, the minister. So the dhammam ugganhitva, having so I should say, not literally, having learnt the Dhamma and wanting to become a monk. This doesn't mean that first he learnt the Dhamma and then decided that he'd become a monk. It's the Ugganhitva is closely linked to Bhavitum. So, Akankamano, wishing, so this amateur, this minister, Akankamano, wishing to do two things, to learn the Dhamma and to become a monk. So we've got two verbs describing consecutive actions. So the first goes in the absolutive. So Dhammam ugganhitva samano bhavitum akankamano, which in English we will put as wishing to learn the Dhamma and to become a monk. In Pali it's wishing, having learnt the Dhamma, to become a monk. Acharyam paryesamano, and looking for, paryesati, he seeks, paryesamano, present participle seeking, acharyam paryesamano, seeking a teacher, buddham upasankami. So I'll read that one again. Dhammam ugganhitva samano bhavitum akankamano, amacho acharyam paryesamano buddham upasankami. Number 11. Sachetumhe gamam papunayatha mitte ulokayatha. Here we've got two optative forms in the second person plural, the you plural. So sachetumhe, if you, papunayatha, reach the gamam, reach the village, mitte olokayata, you would see friends. This papunayata and papunati mostly means to obtain or get, but it also has the meaning of you reach, as in reaching a destination, obtain the village, reach the village. Sachetum hegamam papunayata, mitte ulokayata, you would see friends. Number 12. So, panditam ha panye puchitva satcham janitum matulo ussahi. So, matulo, uncle, the uncle, ussahi, attempted or tried. Satcham janitum, to know the truth or discover the truth, literally to know the truth, satcham janitum. Puchitva, the absolutive, literally having asked, but by asking, it has that force here. So the matulo, the uncle, ussahi, attempted or tried, satcham janitum, to know, to find the truth. How? Panditamha panye puchitva. Puchitva, asking. Panye, questions. Panditamha, ablative here. We'd say from the wise man, but in English we'd say asking the wise man questions. In Pali, asking questions from the wise man. So panditamha, from the wise man. Panye puchitva. I'll read again. Panditamha panye puchitva satcham janitum matulo ussahi. Number 13. Pasanam hi tatva ajam khadantam siham disva vanara bhayimsu. So bhayati, he or she is afraid. Bhayimsu, they became afraid, they got frightened. Who did? The vanara, the monkeys, got frightened. Siham disva, having seen the lion. Doing what? Ajam khadantam, ajam, the goat, ajo, nominative, ajam, a goat, khadantam. Khadantam, a present participle. This is the masculine singular accusative to agree with siham. So siham disva, having seen the lion, ajam khadantam, eating the goat. Pasanam hi tatva. So the tatva could actually refer to where the monk is. Pasanam hi, on a rock, could also say pasane, locative. Pasanam hi, alternative locative. Also pasanasmin. So pasanasmi tatva, standing on a rock. It could relate to the lion, could also relate to the monkeys. More likely to relate to what the lion is doing, because the next following verb after tatva, or participial verb, is khadantam. So it's more likely to mean that it was the lion, seeing the lion, who was standing on a rock, eating a goat. The monkeys got frightened. Pasanam hi tatva ajam khadantam siham disva vanara bhayimsu. Number 14, there is a small misprint in the text of the printed book. I don't know if it's been corrected in the online version. It's written with a short gitani, but in fact it's gitani. It should be a long e. So correct that in your versions. It means a song. The word gita, you can have either the feminine form, gita, which is like the Sanskrit, the Bhagavad Gita, the song, or it can be a neuter, gitam. Here it's used as a neuter, gitam, plural gitani. So this means, sorry, I'll read the sentence. Rukhamule nisididva gitani gayantanam kumaranam kayesu pannanicha pupanicha patimsu. So patimsu, something fell. Something in the plural fell, but this imsu ending. So what fell? Pannanicha pupanicha. Leaves and flowers fell. What on? If you fall on something, that tends to be in the locative. So kayesu, fell on the bodies of whom? Kumaranam, of the boys, who were doing what? Gitani gayantanam, again the genitive plural of the present participle, of the songs singing boys, the boys who were singing songs. And where were they? Rukhamule nisiditva. Nisiditva, having sat down, rukhamule, at the foot of the tree. In English we say at the foot of a tree. In Pali you say regularly, it's the standard expression, rukhamule, literally at the root of a tree, at a tree root. So at a tree root having sat, on the bodies of the songs singing boys, leaves and flowers fell. Rukhamule nisiditva gitani gayantanam kumaranam kayesu pannanicha pupanicha patimsu. Number 15. Tumhe dhanam sangharamana ma samuddam taritva deepam gacchata. So, tumhe, you, ma samuddam taritva deepam gacchata. Ma gacchata. This is the imperative second person plural, do not go. Ma deepam gacchata, do not go to the island. Ma samudram taritva, having crossed the sea, deepam gacchata. So do not cross the sea and go to the island, having done what? Dhanam sangharamana. Do not, collecting wealth, cross the sea and go to the island. So tumhe dhanam sangharamana ma samudram taritva deepam gacchata. This looks here, samharamana, this looks like a purpose. Do not, sail over the sea and go to the island in order to collect wealth. That's how I understand this. Number 16. Apanasmim bhandani vikinantassa vanijassa rato atti. Vanijassa rato atti. Of the merchant, a vehicle or a chariot is. Whenever you see a genitive, particularly of a person, followed by a noun in the nominative and then atti, that often means that the person in the genitive has something. Literally, of the merchant, a chariot is, or a vehicle is, means the merchant has a vehicle. The vanijassa ratu atti, the merchant, a vehicle is of the merchant, so the merchant has a vehicle. Which merchant? The merchant vikinantassa, again genitive to agree with vanijassa, the selling merchant, or the merchant who sells what? Bandani, goods, where? Apanasmim, in the market or in the shop. So the merchant who sells goods in the market or shop has a vehicle. So apanasmim bandani vikinantassa vanijassa rato atti. Number 17. Aham puttassa datum dussam sibbanto gitangayim. So gayati, third person singular, he, she sings. Gayim, I sang. Gitangayim, I sang a song. Doing what? Sibbanto, sewing. Sewing what? Dussam sibbanto, sewing a cloth. Sewing cloth. For what purpose? Puttassa datum, to give to my son. Again, if you talk about a particular person, then just state son or any other family relation like that. It will normally mean his son, the son of the person who is performing the verb. So unless there's anything to displace the presumption, this sentence would mean I was sewing this cloth to give to my son. So aham puttassa datum, to give to my son, dussam sibbanto gitam gayam, I sang a song while sewing a cloth, dussam sibbanto, to give to my son, puttassa datum. Number 18. Sukaracha sunakacha kete avarte kanimsu. Again, this imsu ending indicates third person plural. So kanati, to dig, kanimsu, they dug. They dug what? Avarte, avarta, nominative avarto, a pit or a hole. They dug holes where? Kete, they dug holes in the field. Who did? Sukaracha sunakacha, pigs and dogs. So sukaracha sunakacha, the pigs and dogs. Kete avarte kanimsu, dug pits or holes in the field. Number 19. Purisa rukhamule nisiditva tapasena bhasamanam sunimsu. So again, sunimsu, they listened to or they heard. It's from our well-known root, sunati, evam me sutam, thus have I heard, a savaka, a hearer, meaning a disciple. Suningsu, they heard or they listened to. Purisa suningsu, the word, the the men listened to. The Rukhamuleni Siditva, sitting at the foot of a tree. Bhasamanam. Bhasamana could either mean the a present participle speaking, or that which is spoken. Now, if you look at tapasena bhasamanam, tapasena is an instrumental. So it's the tapasena bhasamanam, that which was spoken, or just the speech made by tapasena, the ascetic. Rukhamulena siditva, who is sitting at the foot of the tree? It could be either. The next actual verb is suningsu. So it tends to indicate that it was the men who sat at the foot of the tree, but it could also be construed to mean that the men listened to the speech given by the tapasa, by the ascetic, who was sitting at the foot of the tree. So I'll read again. Purisa rukhamuleni siditva tapasena bhasamanam suningsu. This tapasena, we know the word tapas, meaning it's a singular noun, and it's a consonantal declension. The nominative would become tapo, but for example, the instrumental is tapasa, for example, like chetas, chetasa, manasa, and so on. Tapas is asceticism, and you can very often form, in Sanskrit and Pali, you can form a noun, an agent noun, a person who does asceticism, an ascetic, by strengthening the first vowel and put it into the a declension. So tapas, austerity, asceticism. Tapasa is the person who does it, so an ascetic. Number 20. Purisa, number 20. Luddakena saddhim vane ahindante putte amantitva kasaka akkusimtu. Akkusimsu, So, kasaka akkusimsu. Kasaka there, it's the nominative plural, and kasako, a farmer. So, kasaka akkusimtu, akkusimsu. The farmers scolded, whom the putte, their sons, vane ahindante, vane, locative singular, in the forest, ahindante, present participle, masculine plural accusative, vane ahindante putte, their in the forest wandering sons, their sons who were wandering in the forest, with whom luddakena saddhim, with the hunter. So the farmers spotted their sons wandering in the forest with the hunter and scolded, summoned them, amantitva, and scolded them. So amantitva, to summon or call. So kasaka, the farmers, putte amantitva, having summoned their sons who were doing what? Vane ahindante, wandering in the forest, with whom luddakena saddhim, with the hunter. Luddakena saddhim vane ahindante putte amantitva kasaka akkusimsu. 21. Ma tvam suvannapattam vikinitva khagge kinahi. So, kinahi is an imperative. Ma kinahi, do not sell. Sorry, do not buy. Ma vikinahi is do not sell. Ma kinahi, do not buy. So kagga is a sword. It's a masculine noun. Kaggo. So ma kagge kinahi, do not buy swords. Suvarnapatam vikinitva, literally having sold the golden bowl. So it's, in Pali you say, do not, having sold the golden bowl, buy swords. In English you say, do not sell the golden bowl to buy swords, or do not sell the golden bowl and buy swords. So matvam suvarnapatam vikinitva kagge kinahi. Number 22. So bhandani cha kittam cha gone cha puttanam tattva geham pahaya samano bhavitum chintesi. There is a misprint again in the printed copy of the book. Dattva is written with a, let me write it for you. It's written with a dot under the T, which is incorrect. It's just dattva. Dattva, having given, is the normal tva. So, whereas he, so, chintesi, chinteti, to think, consider, to think about something. Chintesi, he thought about, or he considered, he thought of it. Thought of doing what? Bandanicha, ketamcha, gonecha, puttanam tattva. He thought of having given puttanam to his sons, bandanicha, ketamcha, gonecha, his goods, the field and the oxen, geham pahaya, geham the house, pahaya, having left, samano bhavitum, to become a monk, chintesi, he thought of. In English we put, he thought of giving his goods and his field and his oxen away to his sons, and leaving home and becoming a monk. So in Pali you say he thought of having given these things away, having left home to become a monk. So bhandanicha ketancha gonecha puttanam dattva geham pahaya samano bhavitum chintesi. Now we've got two absolutives here, the dattva and pahaya. Pahaya could also be pajahitva in Pali. The pahaya is closer to the Sanskrit form prahaya, abandoning, leaving, pahaya in Pali. Number 23. Dhammena jivanta sappurisa mige namare sum. Here we've got this ending, indicating the aorist third person plural. Namare sum, they did not kill. Kill what? Mige. Sappurisa mige namare sum. The virtuous people, the good men, did not kill deer. And which virtuous men? The dhammena jivanta sappurisa. Literally the by the Dhamma living good men. Those good men, those virtuous men who were living by the Dhamma, mige namare sum, did not kill deer. Dhammena jivanta sappurisa mige namare sum. Number 24. Aham sopanam aruhim te sopanam ha uruhimsu. We've got two verbs here, two finite verbs. You can't put the first one in the absolutive because they're different people doing it. Aham sopanam aruhim, I climb the stairs. Te, they, sopanamha uruhimsu. They came down the stairs. It's different people doing these acts, so you can't use the absolutive here. You have to use separate finite verbs. So, aham sopanam aruhim, I climbed the stairs. Te sopanamha uruhimsu. They came down the stairs. Note, I think I mentioned before earlier in this lesson, aruhati, to climb stairs or a tree, to climb anything, you take the accusative, so usopanam aruhim, but if you're coming down, climbing down, that goes with the ablative. Te sopanam ha uruhimsu. They came down the stairs, literally from the stairs. 25. Sahayaka udakam utaritva nahayanta padumani ochinimsu. This imsu ending, ochinate, to pluck or to pick or to gather, as in flowers or fruit. So padumani ochinimsu, they picked lotuses. While doing what? Nahayanta, while bathing. Who did? The friends. Sahayaka, Nahayanta, the friends while bathing. Sahayaka udakam utaritva, Nahayanta padumani ochinimsu. In English, we say the friends got into the water and were bathing, and they picked flowers. And they picked lotuses, rather. So Sahayaka, the friends, udakam utaritva, having gone into the water. Nahayanta, present participle, and bathing, while bathing, padumani ochinimsu, they picked lotuses. And that concludes the Pali to English for this lesson.